The legend said that if the sacred bonfire died, winter would devour our hearts. I never doubted it. I grew up hearing the northern elders repeat the warning every winter solstice, their voices grave like ice cracking under weight. The bonfire was everything. Protection. Promise. The border between life and the freezing void that lurked beyond the mountains. And now I was here, on the borderline, exactly 3 steps away from it. The air was strange here. Neither completely cold like the biting air of my beloved north, nor suffocatingly hot like the damned south. It was divided. I could feel the invisible line separating the territories like a vibration on my skin. On one side, eternal snow and sacred silence. On the other, dry earth, mortal fires, and incessant noise. The sacred bonfire burned exactly over the line, fueled by ancient magic, older than our packs, older than the hatred between us. Its flames danced in impossible colors, glacial blue at the base, furious orange at the top, meeting in a blinding white at the center. Fire and ice, coexisting out of necessity, not choice. Just like us tonight. I looked through the flames to the south side. They were already there, of course, always punctual when it came to exhibition. A dozen wolves from the Fire Clan, dressed in vibrant reds and offensive golds, moving restlessly, talking loudly, laughing. During a sacred ceremony. Barbarians. My people, around me, were the opposite. 12 wolves from the Ice Clan, dressed in pure whites and soft silvers, still as marble statues, in reverent silence. As it should be. Christmas was not a party. It was a vigil. Contemplation. Respect for winter's darkness and gratitude for the light that endured. But then I saw him. Enzo, Prince of Fire, heir of the South, and the most irritating creature who had ever drawn breath. He was directly in front of me, on the other side of the bonfire, as if he had chosen that position on purpose. He probably had chosen it. He always made a point of provoking me. His fierce amber eyes met mine through the flames, and even at this distance, I could see the arrogant smile curving his lips. He was wearing black, surprisingly, not the flashy colors of his clan. Dark leather trousers, an open tunic that showed too much of his tanned chest, and a fur coat thrown carelessly over his shoulders. His dark hair was messy, as always, strands falling over his forehead. He looked like a warrior who had just come from a battle, or a bed. I raised my chin and deliberately looked away, focusing on Elder Isadora, who was starting the ceremony on our side. Wolves of the North. Her voice was like wind over ice, clear and sharp. We gather on this longest night to honor the flame that protects us. In silence, we offer gratitude. In stillness, we renew the pact. Perfect, appropriate, sacred. And then, from the south side, a masculine voice thundered, ruining everything. Wolves of the South. Their maximum elder, Dante, shouted as if announcing a war. We celebrate the night the flame was born. With music, with dance, with joy. Let the fire warm your hearts. And they exploded. Drums began to beat. Voices rose in song. Some even started clapping rhythmically. My people remained motionless, but I could feel the tension, the discomfort, the silent rage that our sacred moment was being polluted by. That. I clenched my fists inside the wide sleeves of my white dress. The silk was cool against my skin, embroidered with silver threads that caught the moonlight. My hair was pulled up in an elaborate braid that fell over my shoulder, intertwined with actual ice crystals I had conjured this morning. They would not melt. Not here. Not while I maintained control. Control was everything. The ceremony continued in that grotesque contrast. Us, in silent meditation. Them, in noisy celebration. Every year it was like this. Every year, I hated it more. Then, because fate had a cruel sense of humor, tradition required that the supreme elementals of each side approach the bonfire to renew the magical bond. I was the supreme elemental of the North, dominion over ice, snow, and cold, born under the winter full moon with the mark of frost on my left palm. And Enzo was the supreme elemental of the South, living fire, embodied heat, born during a wildfire that his mother survived by sheer willpower. I walked to the bonfire with measured steps, silent on the snow that covered my side of the border. Enzo walked on his side, his heavy boots crushing the dry earth, each step deliberately loud. We stopped a meter from the flame, facing each other. He was tall, taller than I remembered from last year. Broad shoulders, muscles visible even beneath his clothing. He radiated heat like a furnace, waves of warm air that distorted the space around him. His scent hit me. Burnt wood, clove, campfire smoke, and something else, something musky and wild that made my inner wolf growl low. "Freya," he said my name like it was an inside joke. His voice was deep, husky, with a slow southern drawl. "You look beautiful as always, cold, rigid, and pale as a corpse, very festive." "Enzo," I replied, my voice flat and controlled. "You look exactly like what you are. Loud, chaotic, and desperate for attention." His smile widened. "Ah, she speaks. I thought you Northerners only communicated through judgmental stares and disappointed sighs. And I thought you Southerners only communicated by yelling and burning things. Touché." He tilted his head, feigning impressiveness. "But at least we feel something, Ice Princess. You just exist. Frozen. Alone. Sad. Something sharp twisted in my chest, but I didn't let it show. Better frozen and at peace than burning in chaos." His amber eyes glittered with something I couldn't identify. "Do you really believe that?" "I do." "Liar." The word came out low, almost a whisper, but it cut like a blade. I opened my mouth to respond, but Elder Dante banged his staff on the ground. "Elementals, touch the flame. Renew the pact." We extended our hands simultaneously. Mine, the left, marked with frost. His, the right, with the sun-shaped birthmark burn. Our palms touched the central white of the flame simultaneously. Power exploded through me. Cold and heat at war, pulling, pushing, trying to dominate me. I pushed back, forcing my will onto the flame, reminding it that I was north, that ice had equal right here. On the other side, Enzo was doing the same, his eyes closed in concentration, jaw clenched. For a second, just 1 second, the flame hesitated. It wavered, as if it were confused, and then it stabilized, accepting our double touch, burning brighter. We pulled our hands back at the same time. I didn't look at him. I didn't want to see whatever was on his face. I took a step back, ready to return to my people, when the cold hit. Not the normal cold of the north, not the clean, clear cold of the mountains. This was wrong. Dead. A cold that didn't preserve, but rotted. That didn't freeze, but killed. The temperature plummeted so fast that my breath froze in the air into solid crystals that fell tinkling to the ground. The bonfire trembled, and then the darkness moved. They weren't normal shadows. They were dense, solid, writhing like living things, and from them emerged a shape. Tall, skeletal, twisted ice horns sprouting from a skull that looked like an elk but wasn't. Empty eyes glowing with sick green hunger. Skin stretched over bones, gray like dead meat. Wendigo. The word passed through the gathered wolves like an icy wind. Some retreated. Others drew weapons. But the creature didn't attack. It just walked, directly toward the bonfire, moving with a horrifying grace, joints bending at wrong angles. "Protect the flame!" Isadora shouted. Warriors from both sides rushed forward, but the Wendigo raised a skeletal hand and the air froze. Literally. The nearest wolves stopped mid-movement, trapped in transparent ice like amber. My blood ran cold. This shouldn't be possible. Wendigos were creatures of hunger, not magic. Enzo was suddenly beside me, heat radiating from him in waves. "What the hell is that?" "Ancient hunger," I whispered. "Despair incarnate. It feeds on discord and—" The Wendigo plunged its hand into the bonfire. Not into the flames, through them, directly into the pulsating white heart, and ripped something out. The master spark. It was small, the size of a fist, a sphere of pure white light with blue and orange swirling inside it, the essence of the bonfire, its soul. "No!" I screamed, running forward, summoning ice to my palms. Enzo roared and flames exploded from his body, but the Wendigo was already retreating, The spark clutched in its bony claw. It looked at us with those empty, hungry eyes, and then it spoke. Its voice was the sound of bones cracking under ice. Hatred feeds, division nourishes, you, the perfect gift. And it vanished, simply dissolved into shadows that spread like ink on the snow. The bonfire died. Not gradually, instantly, as if someone had blown out a candle, and the cold came. Not the dead cold of the Wendigo, but a natural cold, amplified 1,000 times without the protection of the flame. Wolves screamed. The elders fell to their knees, their breaths coming out in clouds of ice. Elder Isidora's skin began to turn blue, her lips purple. No, no, no. I rushed to her, trying to wrap her in my warmth, but I was a creature of ice. I had no warmth to give. Enzo was beside Dante, whose hands were trembling violently. He pressed his hot palms to the elder's chest, trying to warm him, but it wasn't enough. Isidora gripped my wrist with surprising strength. "Retrieve it," she gasped. "The spark. Before dawn. Or..." She didn't finish. She didn't need to. If the sun rose without the sacred bonfire burning, the ancient pact would break, and eternal winter would fall. No spring, no summer, just cold, hunger, death. "How long?" I asked, my voice strained. 5 hours, Dante replied from the other side, his voice weak. "Until dawn. 5 hours to track a nightmare creature, retrieve stolen magic, and return. Impossible. Only the elementals," Isidora whispered, "can withstand its cold. Only the two of you." My stomach dropped. I looked across the empty space where the bonfire had been. Enzo was looking back at me. For a moment, we saw our mutual hatred reflected in each other's eyes. Then he stood up, jaw clenched. "Let's go." It was not a request. It was a command. I stood up too. Let's go. And together, enemies by blood and tradition, we ran into the darkness after the monster that stole our Christmas, unaware that the true storm wasn't out there. It was between us. The forest was a nightmare. Not the forest I knew, with majestic pines covered in clean snow and peaceful silence. This was something else. The trees were twisted, branches pointing to the sky like desperate claws. The snow beneath my feet was not white, but grayish, dirty, as if something had drained the color from it. And the silence was not peace. It was absence, void, as if the world itself were holding its breath. Enzo was 3 steps ahead of me, moving too fast, breaking dry branches under his boots, his breath coming out in clouds of vapor that glowed orange in the darkness. He radiated a faint light, his skin literally glowing with internal heat, turning him into a walking torch, subtle as a wildfire. "You're leaving a trail," I hissed, catching up to him. "Anything within miles can see us." "Good," he replied without slowing down. "Let them come. I'll burn them. This isn't a summer hunt in your territory, Enzo. This is the old forest. Things here don't die easily." He stopped so abruptly that I almost collided with his back. He turned to face me, and up close, I could see his amber eyes were brighter than normal, almost feverish. "Then what do you suggest, Princess? That we tiptoe in sacred silence while our elders freeze to death?" Anger bubbled up in me, hot and unwanted. "I suggest you use the brain you supposedly have and stop acting like brute force solves everything. It has worked so far. You are 24 years old and have never faced anything but territorial disputes and bruised egos. I am 23 and grew up hunting things that turn adult wolves into ice statues. We are not the same." Something dangerous flashed in his eyes. "You're right. We are not. Because I actually live, Freya. I feel. I burn. You just exist in your tower of ice, judging everything that dares to have a temperature above 0. The words should have infuriated me, but instead, something in them cut deeper, touching a truth I didn't want to examine. I looked away. "We're wasting time." For the first time, he agreed. "We are." The Wendigo's trail was easy to follow, at least initially. Wherever the creature passed, the vegetation died. Not froze, died. Flowers wilted to ash. Shrubs crumbled to dust. It was like watching life being sucked away. But after 20 minutes of walking, The trail became strange. "He's playing with us," I murmured, kneeling beside a footprint that pointed the wrong way. "This should be heading north. It's heading south, then turning back." It's a pattern of confusion. Enzo crouched beside me, too close, his heat enveloping my left side like a blanket. So he's not just a stupid, hungry monster. He never was. Wendigos were human once, or wolves, consumed by greed and despair, transformed into something that only knows desire, but they retain intelligence, cunning, great, a smart monster of eternal hunger that steals magic. Exactly what I wanted for my Christmas. He looked around, frustrated. "How do we track something that is actively confusing us?" I closed my eyes, blocking out the distractions. The wind, his heat, the fear gnawing at my edges. I took a deep breath, letting my magic flow. Ice recognized ice. Cold called cold. And there, faint but real, a whisper in the east. Death. Void. Hunger. East, I said, opening my eyes. 15 degrees to the right. He's trying to lead us in circles, but his essence leaks out. Enzo looked at me with something that might have been respect. Useful. It wasn't a compliment, but I accepted it with a nod. We followed the sensation, and the deeper we went, the stranger the forest became. The snow stopped falling. The air stopped moving. Sounds became muffled, as if we were walking underwater. And then the whispers started, low, unintelligible. They came from all directions and none. I tried to ignore them, but they grew louder, clearer, alone, always alone. Ice cannot love, ice cannot feel, only crack, break, die alone. My breath caught. I recognized the voice. It was mine. My own fear amplified and returned to me. I looked at Enzo. He was pale, eyes wide, staring at something I couldn't see. "What do you hear?" I asked. "Silence," he whispered. "Eternal darkness. No fire, no warmth. Alone in the void. Forever. The magical blizzard." Isadora had warned me about it. The Wendigo created psychological illusions, feeding on the despair they generated. "It is not real," I said firmly, grabbing his arm. "Enzo, look at me. It is not real." He blinked, focusing on me with visible effort. "How do you know?" "Because I hear my fears too. And if it were real, I would have already given up." He gave a humorless laugh. "You? Give up? I doubt it. You'd be surprised." The whispers grew louder, more insistent. But now we knew what they were. We walked faster, ignoring them, using each other's presence as an anchor to the real. And then the ground disappeared. Not gradually. Suddenly. My right foot stepped into emptiness and I was falling. The scream caught in my throat. Branches and ice cut my skin. The world blurred into dark and white. Something warm grabbed my wrist. Iron firm. Burning. Enzo. He had thrown himself prone on the ground, one hand clutching an exposed root, the other gripping me. His eyes were wide, arm muscles trembling with the effort. "Hold on!" he roared. I looked down, and wished I hadn't looked. Below me, an abyss. Not just dark, void. As if the very concept of bottom didn't exist there. "Enzo, you can't—" "Shut up!" He pulled, veins bulging in his neck. "I won't let you fall." But the root he was holding started to crack. The sound was loud in the deadly stillness, fibers snapping one by one. The ground beneath him began to give way too, snow and rocks sliding toward the edge. He was going to fall with me. "Let go of me," I said, forcing a calm I didn't feel. "No fucking way. Enzo, you'll die." "Then we die together," the roar echoed. The root snapped, and we fell. But in the last second before we vanished into the void, Enzo pulled me tight against his chest, wrapped his arms around me, and exploded in flames. Not normal fire. White fire, hot as the sun, enveloping our bodies in a cocoon. The air around us superheated, creating a bubble of intense warmth. We hit something solid, then something else. The impact should have killed us, but Enzo's fire shield cushioned it. We bounced. We rolled. Finally, we stopped. Silence. I was lying on something warm and hard that rose and fell, breathing. Chest. Enzo. Slowly, painfully, I pushed away. He was on his back, eyes closed, smoke rising from his skin. The fire had died down, leaving only faint embers glowing beneath his skin. Enzo. My voice sounded strange, small. Enzo, answer me. He groaned. His eyes opened, unfocused. Still alive? Still alive, I confirmed. You saved me. Team. Work, he mumbled, trying to smile but turning it into a grimace of pain. I looked around. We were in a cave, but not a normal cave. The walls were crystal, ice transparent as glass, but with something trapped inside. Shapes, silhouettes. I looked closer and my stomach turned. They were wolves. Dozens of them. Frozen in poses of terror, mouths open in silent screams, eyes wide. The Wendigo's victims, preserved as trophies. We have to get out of here, I said, trying to stand up. Pain exploded in my left side and I fell back down. Enzo forced himself to sit up, his face contorting. Hurt? Ribs, I gasped. Maybe broken. He reached out his hand. Let me see. No. Freya, don't be stubborn. Let me... I said no. The words came out louder than I intended. More desperate. He stopped, hand still extended, eyes studying me. Then understanding crossed his face. You're afraid. Of me. Of your heat. I corrected. My magic is ice, cold. If you touch me with that fire still under your skin, I'll melt you, he finished, and there was something strange in his voice. Not mockery, something softer. I'll lose control, I whispered, and without control I am, what, human? The words hit me like a punch. I didn't answer. Enzo moved, slow, telegraphing every action. You're trembling. I'm cold. Even for me, it's too cold in here. He looked around, realizing what I had already noticed. The Wendigo's lair. Of course it's cold. He drained all the heat from here. And I had no more magical reserves to warm myself. I had used everything cushioning our fall, trying to create ice shields as we plummeted. A shudder ran through me. Then another. My teeth began to chatter. Freya. Enzo's voice grew tense. You're going into stasis. I know. The word came out weak. Stasis was the term for when ice wolves used too much magic in environments that were too cold. The body began to shut down. Forced hibernation, coma, and eventually, freezing death. Enzo moved closer. I hissed, backing away until my back hit the icy crystal wall. Stay away. I can't do that. You'll burn me. Then I'll burn you. He roared, and for the first time, I saw real fear in his eyes. Better burned and alive than frozen and dead. You don't understand. It's not just physical pain. It's... I stopped, fighting the worsening tremor. If you warm me, if you melt my defenses, I will feel everything. And I can't. I can't feel like that. Like what? Like everything. Open. Vulnerable. Unprotected. He was quiet for a long moment. Then softly. Do you think I don't know what it's like to use fire not to feel the void? Do you think all that noise and partying and heat in the south is real joy? It's distraction, Freya. Because if we stop, if we get quiet, we feel the loneliness, the darkness, and it's terrifying. I looked at him, truly looked, and saw past the arrogance. I saw a man as scared as I was, just manifesting differently. My body trembled violently. Another shiver. My hands were turning blue. If I die here, I whispered, no one will be able to retrieve the spark. Your people and mine will freeze. Exactly. So stop being stubborn and let me save you. How? He took a deep breath, took off his coat, then the tunic. Bare chest, tanned skin glowing with residual heat, steam rising from him in the icy cave. Direct contact, skin to skin, vital fire. He looked straight into my eyes. I transfer my heat to you, but it has to be intimate. My breath caught. You mean, I'll hold you, keep you warm, bring you back. That will break the rule. Fire and ice never touch. To hell with the rule. His voice echoed. I won't let you die because of foolish tradition. I wanted to argue. I wanted to protest. But another tremor shook me so hard that I hit my head on the crystal wall behind me. Vision blurred. Fingers numb. I was dying. "All right," I whispered. "All right." Enzo moved fast but gently. He helped me lie down, then lay behind me, molding his body against mine. One arm slipped under my head, the other wrapped around my waist, pulling me against his chest. His heat was a shock, not pain, but intensity so great it was almost sensory violence. Every point where we touched burned, but it didn't destroy. It warmed. "Breathe," he murmured against my hair. "Just breathe with me." His breath was warm against the nape of my neck. Deep, steady. I tried to match my rhythm to his. Slowly, I felt the heat spread, not just on the surface. Deep, in the bones, in the cold, frozen places I had kept locked away for so long. "It works," I murmured. "I know. Now sleep. Recover. I'll keep you safe." And for the first time in my life, I allowed myself to trust fire. I fell asleep in the arms of my enemy, and I dreamed not of ice, but of flames that didn't burn. They just warmed. I woke slowly, as if emerging from deep water. For a moment, I didn't remember where I was. I only felt warmth. True, encompassing, living warmth. Something I had never felt before. Not this way. Then the memory returned in waves. The fall. The cave. Enzo. Enzo was still holding me. I opened my eyes. The crystal cave was still there, the walls glowing with a pale blue luminescence that came from somewhere above. It must have been residual Wendigo magic, or perhaps natural crystals reacting to our presence. It didn't matter. What mattered was that I could see, and what I saw was Enzo's arm wrapped tightly around my waist, his hand flat against my stomach, long fingers spread as if he were anchoring me. His breathing was constant against my neck, warm and regular. He was still asleep. I tried to move, just a little, to assess the damage. My side still hurt where the ribs had taken the impact, but the pain was tolerable now. Not the pulsating agony from before. My fingers were no longer blue. I could feel them. I could feel everything. "Too much heat," my mind whispered. "You're feeling too much." I tried to summon ice to my palms, just a simple test of control. Nothing happened. Panic began to rise in my throat. I tried again. This time, a thin layer of frost appeared, weak and shaky, but present. Not broken. Just exhausted. "You're awake." Enzo's voice came from behind me, husky with sleep. I felt when his breathing changed. "How long have you been awake?" I asked, keeping my voice low. "A while." He didn't move, didn't loosen his embrace. "How are you?" "Alive. Thanks to you." He made a low sound, somewhere between acknowledgement and relief. "Your ribs. Bruised. Not broken, I think." I managed to take a deep breath without feeling like something was piercing my lung. "Good." Silence for a moment. Then, "You stopped trembling an hour ago. Color returned half an hour after that. But you were still too cold to wake up, so I continued." I finished. "Thank you." "No need to thank me." His arm tightened slightly, almost imperceptibly. "I said I wouldn't let you die. I don't break promises." Something warm and unwanted stirred in my chest. It wasn't just his physical heat. It was something else, something more dangerous. "We need to move," I said, more brusque than I intended. "Find a way out. The spark is still out there." "I know, but you're not strong enough yet." "I'm fine. You are stubborn. There's a difference." He finally moved, loosening his arm but not completely. He sat up, leaning on his elbow, looking at me over my shoulder. "Look at me." I turned my head. Mistake. He was too close. I could see every detail. The small silver scars on his chin, probably from some youthful fight. The dark, thick eyelashes, framing those amber eyes that studied me with uncomfortable intensity. His lips, full, curved in something that wasn't quite a smile. "You have color again," he said softly. "But your eyes still have that pale ice tone. Scared." "I'm not scared." "Liar." He raised his free hand, and before I could protest, touched my face. Just his fingers, tracing the line of my jaw with a gentleness that completely contrasted with his intense heat. "You're terrified. Not of me. Of yourself." Jumping to conclusions is your favorite pastime? I tried to sound acidic, but my voice came out weak. It's not a conclusion when I can feel it. His fingers stopped at the point where my jaw met my neck, right over my racing pulse. Your heart is racing. Your skin is warm. You are feeling, Freya, and that terrifies you. Stop, I whispered. Why? Because you're right. The admission came out before I could stop it. I saw something shift in his eyes. Surprise. Then something deeper. He pulled his hand back, and foolishly, I felt the absence as loss. He moved away, sitting up and running his hands through his messy hair. Sorry, I shouldn't have. You just woke up. I shouldn't be. Enzo. He stopped, looking at me. I sat up too, ignoring the twinge of pain in my side. I faced him, separated by 1/2 meter of cold crystal. When you held me, warmed me, did you feel anything? He grew very quiet. Then, I felt everything. Elaborate. He looked at his own hands, turning them over as if they were strangers. Normally, when I use vital fire, it's just energy transfer, mechanical. But with you, he stopped, searching for words. It wasn't just energy. It was like our wolves recognized each other, as if they had been waiting to touch for centuries. I felt that too, I admitted quietly, as if the ice in me wasn't fighting your fire, but dancing with it. His eyes widened. Exactly. He leaned forward. Freya, what is happening to us? I don't know, but it scares me. It scares me too. He gave a humorless laugh. I spent 24 years believing that fire and ice were natural enemies, that you northerners were cold, lifeless, dead inside. And then I held you, and you were the most alive thing I had ever touched. The air between us became charged, electrified, dangerous. We can't, I said, more to myself than to him. Our people hate each other, he finished, for generations. I know. Believe me. I know. Then why does it feel so right? He didn't answer. Just looked at me with those fire eyes, and I saw the same conflict tearing through my insides reflected in him. The silence stretched. It wasn't uncomfortable. It was heavy with unspoken things. Finally, Enzo stood up, extending his hand. Let's explore. There has to be a way out. I accepted his hand. The touch sent that now familiar wave of heat through me. But this time, I didn't pull away. I let it happen. I let it warm me. He pulled me to my feet, and when I was stable, he didn't let go immediately. His fingers lingered on mine, thumb tracing an unconscious circle over my knuckles. Enzo, I started. A roar cut through the air. Not a wolf roar. Something older, hungrier. It echoed through the cavern, coming from somewhere above, making the crystals on the walls vibrate. The Wendigo. He knows we're here, Enzo said, immediately shifting into battle mode. His hand finally released mine, going for the knife still clipped to his belt. I looked around. The cave where we had fallen was large, maybe 15 meters in diameter, with a vaulted ceiling that rose into darkness. The walls were smooth, with no handholds or ledges, just transparent crystal with those frozen bodies trapped inside like insects in amber. But on the farthest side, there was something different. A fissure, narrow, jagged, disappearing into the wall. There, I pointed. It might be a passage, or it might be a trap, Enzo said, but he was already moving toward it. We approached together, our steps echoing strangely in the crystal space. The closer we got to the fissure, the colder it became. Not the dead cold of the Wendigo, but natural cold, deep cave air. Enzo stopped at the entrance, making flames dance in his palm to light the way. The passage was narrow, only wide enough for one person to squeeze through sideways, and it sloped downward. It goes deep, he murmured. I can't see the end. I can feel air moving, I said, closing my eyes and focusing. It has to lead somewhere. Another roar, closer this time. Small stones fell from the ceiling, tinkling as they hit the crystal floor. We have no choice, Enzo said. You go first. I'll cover the rear. I didn't argue. I entered the fissure sideways, the cold crystal pressing against my front and back. It was tight, claustrophobic. I had to turn my head to breathe without my nose hitting the wall. Behind me, I heard Enzo enter, his breathing echoing. "You okay?" "I am," I replied, though okay was generous. I kept moving, sliding inch by inch, following the slight current of air. The descent seemed to last forever. My muscles protested. My bruised ribs screamed with every movement, but I kept going. Then the fissure opened. Abruptly, I stumbled out into a new chamber and stopped, gaping. It wasn't a cave. It was a cathedral. The ceiling rose perhaps 30 meters, all crystal that glowed with that pale blue light. But that wasn't the impressive part. The impressive part was the formations. Columns of ice growing from the floor and descending from the ceiling, meeting in the middle like pillars of an ancient temple. And between them, suspended in the air by thin threads of ice like spiderwebs, was something that glowed, the master spark. Enzo emerged from the fissure behind me, breathless. When he saw the spark, he froze. "We found it." "We can't just take it," I warned, studying the chamber. "This is too elaborate. It's a trap." "Obviously it's a trap." He walked forward, cautious. "But we have no choice. We have—" He looked at his wrist where he wore an old watch, a gift from his father. "What? 2 hours until dawn?" "Less. Maybe 90 minutes. Then let's be smart and fast." We approached the spark together, examining the ice webs holding it. They were delicate, almost invisible, vibrating gently as if breathing. "If we cut the threads, it will fall," Enzo said, "and probably trigger whatever defense the Wendigo put in place." I bit my lip, thinking, Unless what? Unless we replace the weight before cutting. I looked around. "We need something of the same weight and magical density." He followed my gaze, then understood. "Ice. Can you conjure something?" "I can try, but I'll need time, and concentration, and—" I hesitated. "Energy." He turned to look at me completely. "You're still weak. Using magic now could put you in stasis again." "I know." "Then don't do it." "Enzo, there is no other option." "There's always another option," his voice echoed. "I grab the damn thing, take the consequences, and we run. What if the consequences are the entire cave collapsing? Or the Wendigo being alerted and reaching us before we get to the surface?" I shook my head. "No, we do this right." He opened his mouth to argue, then closed it. He ran a hand over his face, frustrated. "All right, what do you need?" "Warm me." "Like before." His eyes widened. "Freya, it's the only way for me to have enough energy without collapsing." I touched his arm, feeling the radiant heat. "Please." He looked at my hand on his arm, then at my face, then at the spark glowing above us. Finally, he nodded. "All right. But the second you feel too weak, you stop. Understood?" "Understood." He moved behind me, just like in the previous cave. But this time I was standing. He pulled me back against his chest, arms wrapping around my waist, hands flat over my stomach. His heat came in waves. Constant. Strong. Comforting. I closed my eyes and reached for my magic. It responded. Slow but present, rising like water from a deep well. I visualized what I needed. A sphere. The exact size of the spark. Exact weight. Exact density. I extended my hands, palms up, and began to weave. Ice formed in the air above my palms, not in layers, but crystallizing directly from the water vapor, building molecule by molecule. The sphere grew, the size of a nut, of an apple, of a fist. My breathing became difficult. The edges of my vision began to darken. Enzo's arms tightened. "I'm here. Keep going. I've got you." And he sustained me. His heat flowed into me in constant waves, feeding my magic, keeping me conscious, keeping me strong. The sphere reached the right size. I held it floating, trembling with the effort. "Now," I gasped. Enzo moved fast. He kept me standing with one arm while reaching with the other, taking the ice sphere from my hands and positioning it directly below the spark. "I'll swap on 3, he said. 1, 2, 3. He swapped. The ice sphere up, the spark down. For one suspenseful second, nothing happened. Then the ice webs accepted the new weight and stabilized. "It worked," I whispered, barely believing it. You worked. Enzo turned me in his arms to face him, holding the glowing spark between us. You are incredible. He was too close, too warm, smiling too much. And before I could stop myself, before the ice in me could rebuild the walls, I smiled back. A true smile. Not polite, not cold, real. His eyes widened. Then they softened. You should do that more often. What? Smile. It makes you look alive. Maybe I am, I admitted quietly. For the first time in a long time. He opened his mouth to reply, but the floor shook. Violently. Crystals began to fall from the ceiling, shattering into fragments as they hit the floor. He knows, I shouted over the noise. Enzo, he knows we took it. Run! He grabbed my hand and we ran. Back through the crystal cathedral, dodging falling pillars. The narrow fissure we had entered through was collapsing, the crystal cracking and closing like a mouth. There! Enzo pointed to another passage, wider, that opened in the opposite wall. We had no choice. We plunged into it as the cathedral collapsed behind us. The passage spiraled upward, tight and dark. Enzo summoned flames in his free hand, lighting the way as we ran. The spark pulsed between us, connected by our joined hands, glowing brighter with every second. Then I saw it. Above, an opening, faint gray light of pre-dawn. The surface! We scrambled out of the cave right onto the snow, rolling and stumbling. The night air was shockingly cold after the warmth of the run and of Enzo. He pulled me to my feet, still holding my hand, still holding the spark. We're out. A roar cut his words short. And from the tree line ahead of us, the Wendigo emerged. Bigger than it looked at the border. 10 feet of skeletal height, ice horns curving like blades, empty eyes glowing with sick green hunger. Its mouth opened, showing rows of sharp ice teeth. Mine, the creature hissed. My spark, my hope to steal, my hunger to feed. Never, Enzo growled, moving partially in front of me. The Wendigo laughed, a sound like cracking bones. Foolish fire, stupid ice, separate, weak, together. It tilted its head, studying us, still holding hands. Together, delicious. And it attacked. The Wendigo moved like a nightmare come to life. Too fast for something so large, joints bending at impossible angles. It covered the distance between us in 3 long strides, skeletal claws slicing the air toward the spark. Enzo exploded in flames. Fire shot from his free hands in a concentrated jet, hitting the Wendigo squarely in the chest. The creature recoiled, roaring, smoke rising from its dead flesh where the fire touched. But it didn't fall. It didn't die. It just grew angrier. Run! Enzo yelled, shoving the spark into my hands. Take it back. I'll hold him. Are you insane? I'm not leaving you. Freya, go. But the Wendigo gave us no choice. It attacked again, this time splitting its attention. One claw came for Enzo, the other for me. We rolled in opposite directions, snow exploding where the claws cut. I rose quickly, the spark clutched against my chest. It pulsed warmly, almost as if it had a heart of its own, reacting to the danger. I summoned ice, launching frozen spears toward the Wendigo. They hit it, piercing its shoulder and thigh. The creature shrieked, but didn't slow down. Enzo attacked from the other side, fire roaring from his hands like liquid whips, lashing at the monster's legs. The Wendigo stumbled, but stayed standing. It's not working, I shouted. He's too strong. Enzo dodged another swipe, rolling in the snow, and getting up already summoning more fire. I noticed. Got a better idea? I did. A terrible idea. Impossible. Against all tradition and ancient warning. But as I dodged another claw and saw the sky beginning to lighten on the horizon, I realized there was no alternative. We need to merge, I yelled. Enzo launched a wall of fire between us and the Wendigo, buying precious seconds. He ran to me, eyes wide. What do you mean? Our elements. Separate, we are strong. But when you held me, when our wolves touched, we felt something new. He understood instantly. His eyes widened. The legend. The old legend about the balance. You know it? Pieces. My grandmother used to tell it. She said that before the division, before the hatred, There were wolves who could fuse elements, create something beyond. The Wendigo tore through the firewall, smoke rising from its skeletal body. Its mouth opened in a silent scream of fury. "We don't have time for history." Enzo grabbed my free hand, the other still holding the spark. "What do we do?" "Trust me," I said, looking straight into his amber eyes. "Completely." For a second he hesitated. Then he nodded. "With my life." I closed my eyes and reached for my inner wolf. Not the civilized beast I kept under rigid control, but the primal creature, ancient, made of ice and instinct and magic as old as the mountains. I felt Enzo do the same. His wolf rose up, fire and fury and wild heat that burned so hot it should destroy me. But it didn't destroy, because when our wolves touched, when they truly met without barriers or fear, they recognized each other, not as enemies, as halves. Power exploded through us. Not cold, not heat, but both. Neither. Something completely new. I felt it happen on levels I had no words to describe, as if reality itself were reconfiguring around us. I opened my eyes, and the world had changed. I could still see the snow, the Wendigo, the forest, but I also saw more. I saw energy, lines of power connecting all living things. I saw the blue cold of winter and the red heat of life intertwined like threads in an endless tapestry. And between me and Enzo, our hands still joined, something new glowed. Plasma. It wasn't flame. It wasn't ice. It was pure energy, white as a dying star, crackling with electricity, neither hot nor cold, but somehow both. It circled our arms like a living snake, rising and falling, responding to our synchronized heartbeats. "Are you seeing this?" Enzo whispered, amazed. "I am seeing it." The Wendigo stopped. For the first time, I saw something besides hunger in its empty eyes. I saw fear. "Impossible," the creature hissed. "Broken, divided, cannot merge." "Watch us," I said, and my voice sounded different, harmonic, as if two voices spoke as one. Enzo squeezed my hand. "Together?" "Together." We raised our joined hands and the plasma responded. It surged forward, not as an attack, but as a wave, a wall of white energy that expanded in all directions, washing over the Wendigo. The creature screamed, not in pain, in denial, because the plasma was not destruction. It was the opposite. It was balance, harmony, and for something born of discord and unbalanced hunger, that was poison. The Wendigo began to unravel, not melting or burning, simply dissolving. Its edges became translucent, transparent. It reached for us with desperate claws, but they passed through the air like smoke. "No," it moaned. "Hunger. I need. Void." And then it was gone, completely vaporized, leaving only a dark patch on the snow that quickly disappeared. Silence fell over the forest. Enzo and I stood there, still holding hands, the plasma still circling our arms, breathing heavily. Slowly I let the power recede. I felt it flow back to wherever it had come from, coiling somewhere deep inside me, inside us. When I opened my eyes again, the world was normal, just snow and trees and a clearing sky. "We killed it," Enzo said, voice full of wonder. "We actually killed it." I looked at the spark still safe against my chest. It glowed brighter now, pulsing steadily, like a heartbeat, like hope. "We need to go back," I said. "We don't have much time." He nodded, but he didn't move, just looked at me with an expression that made something tighten in my chest. "What?" I asked. "You," he said softly. "You are different." "Different how?" He raised his free hand, hesitated, then touched my face. "Your eyes. They're not that distant pale blue anymore. They have color, depth. You too," I whispered. "Your eyes. They have blue in them now. On the edges. Like ice." He smiled. "I guess we left marks on each other." Literally. I looked at our hands still intertwined. Where our skins touched, there were faint marks. On mine, veins of golden orange like fire under ice. On his, streaks of silver blue like frost over embers. "The bond marks," Enzo said. recognition crossing his face. My grandmother had one. When she met my grandfather, she said it happens when two wolves merge so deeply that they stop being two and become balance. My heart pounded. Enzo, you know what this means? I know, he said, voice husky. It means we are no longer just north and south, ice and fire. We are one, I finished. He pulled our joined hands up, pressing my knuckles against his lips. A soft kiss. Reverent. I should have been terrified. My ice should have been screaming for me to retreat, protect myself, freeze before I felt too much. But it wasn't. Because for the first time in my life, I didn't want to protect myself. I wanted to feel everything. We need to go, I said, although every part of me wanted to stay in this moment forever. He nodded, but his eyes said the same thing as my heart. This doesn't end here. We ran, hand in hand, the spark safe between us, through the forest that was starting to lighten with pre-dawn light. The minutes were draining away like sand. The forest changed as we approached the border. The twisted, dead trees gave way to healthy pines. The gray snow became pure white. The dead air came alive again. And then we saw it. Ahead. The line of petrified trees. The border. But something was wrong. Where there should have been wolves from both clans gathered, waiting, there was only silence. Untouched snow. Emptiness. Enzo squeezed my hand. Where is everyone? I don't know, I replied, fear rising. Unless I didn't finish. I didn't need to. We both thought the same thing. What if it was too late? What if the cold had already taken everyone? We sped up, running faster. Branches whipping our faces, lungs burning. We crossed the last line of trees and stopped. The sacred bonfire was there, or what was left of it. Just ashes. A black dead circle where the flame used to burn. And around it figures. Dozens of them. Wolves from both clans, motionless in the snow. Not moving, not breathing. Frozen. No! The word tore from my throat. I ran forward, falling to my knees beside Elder Isadora. Her skin was pale blue, eyes closed, lips white with frost. I touched her neck, checking for a pulse. Nothing. Enzo was checking Dante. His face was pale. Freya? Not yet, I cried, refusing to believe. The spark, quickly. He ran to the dead circle where the bonfire used to be. I followed, the spark in my hands, pulsing weakly now, as if it too were dying. What do we do? Enzo asked, desperate. Just put it there? I don't know. Tears burned my eyes. No one has ever had to relight the bonfire before. Then let's figure it out. He took the spark from my hands, kneeling in the circle of ashes. He placed the glowing sphere in the exact center where the white used to burn. For a second, nothing. Then the spark pulsed. Once, twice, and went out. The light died completely, leaving only a dull, lifeless sphere in the ashes. No, Enzo whispered, picking up the spark, shaking it as if he could wake it. No, come on, light. Light. It's not working, I said, voice breaking. Enzo, it's not. Wait. I looked at our hands. The bond mark still glowed faintly. Orange and silver, fire and ice intertwined. In the cave, I said quickly. When we created the plasma, it wasn't just you. It wasn't just me. It was us. Together. He understood instantly. You think the spark needs both of us? Balance? There's only one way to find out. He placed the spark back in the center of the ashes, then extended both hands to me. Together? Always, I replied, taking his hands. We closed our eyes. I reached for my ice wolf. I felt Enzo reach for his fire wolf, and then together, we let them merge. The plasma came easier this time, as if now that the path was open, it was just waiting to be called. It circled our arms, brilliant white and crackling, neither cold nor hot, but perfect. We opened our eyes, and together, we directed the plasma downward, to the dead spark. The white energy touched the opaque sphere, and the world exploded in light. The light was not like normal fire. It was not like the cold glow of ice. It was something alive, conscious, ancient. It erupted from the spark in waves that expanded like ripples in water, washing over the dead ashes, over the snow, over the frozen bodies around the bonfire, and where the light touched, life returned. The ashes in the bonfire began to glow, first faint red, like sleeping embers being awakened, then orange, then gold, and then, with a roar that shook the ground beneath our knees, the flames burst upward. But they were not the flames from before, not just blue at the base and orange at the top. Now there was pure white interwoven through them, living plasma, dancing between ice and fire, merging them into something new, something balanced. The wave of light continued to expand, reaching the frozen wolves. It hit Elder Isadora first. I watched, heart in my throat, as the light enveloped her. The deadly blue on her skin began to recede. Pink returned to her cheeks. Her lips, white as snow, gained color again. And then she breathed. A deep, desperate gasp, like someone emerging from deep water. Her eyes opened, cloudy and confused, but alive. Alive. "Isadora," I cried, tears streaming freely now. Around the circle, the others began to wake up. Dante sat up abruptly, coughing, his hand going to his chest. Warriors from the north and south blinked, looking around dazed. Some cried. Others just stared at the reborn bonfire with mute awe. "It worked," Enzo whispered beside me, his voice so full of relief that it cracked at the edges. "Freya, it worked." I turned to him. He was still holding my hands, the bond marks on our skin glowing in the same white light that danced in the flames. Tears traced clean lines on his sooty face. I probably looked the same. "We did," I corrected softly. "We worked." He let out a laugh that was half sob, pulling me into an embrace so tight it took my breath away. I hugged him back, my face pressed against his neck, feeling his accelerated pulse against my lips, feeling his heat envelop me as it always did, but now without fear, without resistance, only acceptance. The moment was broken by a weak voice. "Elementals?" We separated. Elder Isadora was trying to stand, supported by two younger wolves. Her eyes, still weak, but clearing, focused on us. "You..." returned. The spark. She looked at the bonfire, now burning strong and strange, and her mouth dropped open. What happened to the flame?" "It's a long story," I replied, helping Enzo up and then rising myself. Dante staggered closer, leaning heavily on his staff. His red clothes were torn, his face marked with deep lines of exhaustion, but his eyes were sharp. "Elementals," he said, his voice formal despite the weakness. "You saved our lives. You saved both packs. We owe you unpayable gratitude." "We just did what was necessary," Enzo said, but his hand found mine again, fingers intertwining naturally. The movement did not go unnoticed. Isadora looked at our joined hands, then at our faces. Her eyes widened when she saw the glowing marks on our skin, the subtle changes in our eyes. "You bonded," she whispered. "By the Mother Moon. You actually bonded." A murmur went through the gathered crowd. Wolves from both sides approached, some curious, others clearly shocked. I could feel the weight of dozens of gazes on us. "Impossible," a northern warrior said, his voice too loud in the cold air. "Fire and ice cannot bond. It's against nature, against the laws." "The laws were wrong," I said, raising my chin. My voice came out stronger than I expected. "We fought a Wendigo. We retrieved the spark. And the only reason we are alive, the only reason any of you are alive, is because we stopped fighting each other and started fighting together." Enzo squeezed my hand. "The division between our peoples is based on fear that opposing elements would destroy each other. But look," he raised our joined hands, the marks glowing clearly. "We did not destroy each other. We completed each other." "But tradition," another wolf began. "Tradition almost killed all of you." Enzo's voice thundered, echoing over the clearing. "Tradition put hatred between us when we should have been united. Tradition fed that creature of hunger that stole our light." "He is right," a faint but firm voice said. Everyone turned. Isadora was standing now, supported but steady. "I am old enough to remember stories most have forgotten. Stories of a time before the division." She looked at the bonfire, the white flames dancing. "There was a time when ice and fire were not enemies. They were partners. Balance. And the magic was stronger. Those are just legends, someone protested. Legends based on truth, Dante said, his voice grave. He approached, studying the bonfire. Look at the flame. It is no longer divided. It is no longer at war with itself. It is one. Because we relit it, I said. Together. Using something that only exists when we stop fighting. Plasma. Perfect balance of opposites. Show us, Isadora said suddenly. What? Enzo blinked. The plasma. The fusion. She stepped closer, her ancient eyes intense. If this is true, if you truly achieve the lost balance, then show your pack. Show both packs. I looked at Enzo. He nodded, confidence and something else shining in his eyes. Together, always, we turned to face the gathered crowd. Wolves of the north in their pale furs and silvers, wolves of the south in their vibrant reds and golds, separated by meters, by centuries of hatred, by fear. I closed my eyes and reached for my wolf. I felt Enzo do the same, and together, we let the barriers fall completely. The plasma came like a tide, flowing from our joined hands, circling our bodies in spirals of crackling white light. It rose and fell, neither hot nor cold, pulsing in sync with our united heartbeats. Gasps echoed. Someone fell to their knees. Others recoiled, instinctive fear glittering in their eyes. But then something happened. The plasma light began to expand, not violently, gently, rippling outward like warm water on a cold day. And where it touched the gathered wolves, something changed. A northern warrior and a southern warrior who stood side by side, tense and hostile, suddenly blinked. The hostility on their faces softened. They looked at each other, truly looked, perhaps for the first time, and something like understanding passed between them. I saw it happen across the clearing. Old enemies seeing each other not as monsters, but as wolves. Just wolves, trying to survive, trying to protect their families. Not so different after all. The plasma receded, flowing back into us. I let it go, the power coiling somewhere deep inside. When I opened my eyes, the world was quiet. Isadora had tears streaming down her face. Balance, she whispered. Then louder. Balance. For the first time in 300 years, we witnessed the true balance. Dante fell to his knees, and one by one, others followed. North and south kneeling together, for the first time in centuries. Get up, Enzo said, clearly uncomfortable with the reverence. Please, we are not. You are the proof, Isadora interrupted, her voice firm now despite the tears. Proof that we can be more, that we don't have to be divided. But the council will never accept this, an older wolf from the south said, rising. You know the elders. They will say this is an aberration. They will try to separate you. Let them try, I said, and I felt Enzo squeeze my hand in agreement. We killed a Wendigo. We survived the impossible. We relit the sacred bonfire. If the councils want to challenge us, they are welcome to try. A young wolf from the north, not much older than me, stepped forward. I fight for you. His voice trembled but was firm. If the councils try to separate you, I stand on your side. Me too, another said. A southern she-wolf this time. And another. And another. Voices rising, north and south, young and old, declaring allegiance not to tradition, but to something new, something better. I looked at Enzo, seeing my own amazement reflected in his eyes. Is this really happening? He smiled, that smile that transformed his whole face. It is. We changed everything. The sun chose that moment to finally break the horizon. Golden light poured over the clearing, touching the snow, making it sparkle, touching the bonfire, making the white flames dance even brighter, and touching us, Enzo and me, still holding hands, still united, bathing us in warmth that wasn't just from the sun. It was hope. Dante banged his staff on the ground 3 times, the sound echoing. Silence fell. Elementals, he said formally. You saved our lives. You changed our understanding. And he looked at Isadora, who nodded. You demonstrated that the old path of division is broken. A new path must be forged. Isadora stepped forward. By the power invested in me as Elder of the North, and with the witness of the sacred bonfire, I recognize the bond between Freya of ice and Enzo of fire as true, as sacred, as the first of a new age. And I, Dante said, as Elder of the South, do the same. May this bond be the beginning of healing, of union, of restored balance. The crowd exploded, not in protest, in celebration. Howls rose, north and south together for the first time, the sound so beautiful it made my chest ache. Enzo pulled me into his arms, spinning me around, laughing with pure joy. When he put me down, he cupped my face between his hands. We did it. You did it. We did, I corrected softly. Always us. And then he kissed me. There, before both packs, before the reborn bonfire, before the rising sun. His lips were hot and soft and right, and I kissed him back with everything I had, without fear, without restraint, just love. When we separated, I saw snow beginning to fall, but not normal snow. It was warm, bright, crystals that shimmered with internal light, touching our skin and melting into gentle warmth instead of cold. Christmas snow, Enzo whispered, marveling. My grandmother used to say that when something truly miraculous happened, the earth itself celebrated. I looked around. The warm snow fell on everyone, north and south, and where it touched, it seemed to dissolve old wounds, old angers, leaving only possibility. Christmas is saved, I murmured. No. Enzo pulled me close, resting his forehead against mine. We saved something much bigger. We saved the future. And standing there, on the border that was no longer a barrier but a bridge, under snow that was a blessing, beside fire that was as much his as mine, I knew he was right. There would be challenges, councils to convince, traditions to break, but it didn't matter, because ice had found fire, and instead of destroying each other, they had created something new. Balance, home, love. 3 months later, I was standing in exactly the same place, on the border, but everything was different. The petrified trees that marked the dividing line were still there, but now they were decorated. Red and silver ribbons intertwined in the branches. Lanterns hung, some containing warm flames, others bright ice crystals. North and south together, transforming an ancient scar into something beautiful. I looked down at my hands. The bond marks still glowed, fainter now in the daylight, but permanent. Veins of golden orange under my pale skin, a constant reminder of fire that didn't burn me. It only warmed me. Freya! Enzo's voice came from behind me. I turned, and there he was, running across the snow with that smile that still made my heart leap. He carried something in his arms, wrapped in thick cloth. You're late, I said, but with no real heat in the words. He stopped in front of me, breathless, cheeks flushed with cold and effort. Sorry. The Southern Council decided to have one more emergency meeting about border protocols, as if there were still a real border. I smiled. Is there? He looked around, at the mixed decorations, at the wolves from both clans working together on the construction of something new, a permanent structure where the bonfire burned, no longer exposed to the elements. North or south? He shook his head. I can't tell the difference anymore. Good, I said softly. That was the goal. He pulled me close with his free arm, kissing me quick but deep. When he pulled back, his eyes sparkled. I have something for you. He held out the bundle. I took it, feeling weight and warmth through the cloth. What is it? Open it. I unwrapped it carefully, and my breath caught. It was a sculpture, small enough to fit in my hands but intricate beyond anything I had ever seen. 2 wolves, one of ice clear as glass, the other of translucent orange amber, intertwined in an eternal spiral, impossible to say where one ended and the other began. Enzo, I whispered. It's beautiful. A southern craftsman made the firewolf. A northern sculptress made the ice one. He touched the piece gently, and then they worked together to fuse them. They said it was impossible, that the ice would melt, or the fire would extinguish. But they found that if they heated and cooled at the exact right sequence, at the exact right temperature, they merge, I finished, marveling. Exactly like us. Exactly like us. He touched my face. Happy 3-month bond anniversary. I laughed, clutching the sculpture to my chest. Are we celebrating in months now? I'll celebrate you in days if you let me. Hours, minutes. Dramatic. Passionate, he corrected. There's a difference. The sound of construction stopped behind us. I turned and saw that the workers had paused, looking at something beyond the tree line. I followed their gaze and my stomach tightened. A procession approached. Formal, solemn. Wolves in ceremonial attire, carrying banners of both clans. And in front, Elder Isadora and Elder Dante, walking side by side. It's time, Enzo said quietly. I know. I took a deep breath. Are you ready? He took my hand. With you? Always. The procession stopped before us. Isadora and Dante stepped forward, their faces serious but not hostile. Behind them, the full 2 councils. 12 northern elders. 12 southern. 24 faces watching us with expressions ranging from curiosity to clear disapproval. Elementals, Isadora said formally. The United Council has summoned you. We are here, I replied, equally formal. Dante cleared his throat. In the last 3 months, we have witnessed unprecedented changes. Cooperation between our peoples, trade, mixed marriages, even 2 new settlements being built directly on the old borderline. He paused. All because the 2 of you challenged centuries of tradition. A northern elder, a severe-faced, lean wolf named Kristoff, stepped forward. Some say you are heroes, saviors, that you brought forth a new era of peace. And others? Enzo asked, his voice calm but with an edge of challenge. Others, a southern elder replied, a stocky woman named Marta, say you are dangerous, that this fusion of elements will lead to imbalance, chaos, that your bond is an aberration. I felt Enzo stiffen beside me. His hand squeezed mine, the heat rising. So which is it? I asked, forcing my voice to remain level. Did you come to honor us or condemn us? Isadora and Dante exchanged glances. Then Isadora smiled. Small, but real. We came to ask you to choose. Choose what? Enzo frowned. Where to build, Dante said. Your home. You have been living among our peoples, never staying long in one place, always on the road. But if you are to lead this new era, you need a base, a permanent home. Leadership, I repeated, confused. We are not leaders. You are more than leaders, Kristoff said, though his voice was reluctant. You are symbols, living hope that ancient divisions can be healed. And symbols need temples, Marta added, gentler now. Places where others can come, learn, see that fire and ice can coexist. I looked at Enzo. He looked at me. And without words, we knew. Here, I said, turning to face the councils. We build here, exactly on the borderline. Where it is neither north nor south, Enzo continued, but both, balanced. Isadora smiled openly now. We expected you to say that. She gestured, and 2 young wolves came forward carrying rolls of parchment. Blueprints for a house that honors both traditions. Stone from the north, wood from the south. A roof that captures snow, but warms with internal fire. Do you approve? I unrolled the parchment. The blueprints were beautiful. A house not too large, but perfectly designed. A living room with a huge fireplace surrounded by windows that would capture winter light. A bedroom with a glass ceiling to see the stars. A workshop where I could work with ice crystals. A forge where Enzo could practice fire magic. And in the center, an atrium open to the sky, where a small bonfire would burn eternally. It's perfect, I whispered. Then it is decided, Dante declared. Construction begins tomorrow. He looked at the gathered councils. All in favor? One by one, hands rose. Not unanimous. Some elders kept their arms firmly down, faces tight with disapproval. But a majority, an overwhelming majority, north and south, voting together. Unthinkable 3 months ago. There is one more thing, Isadora said. She nodded, and another wolf brought a box. Small, wooden, carved with moon and sun symbols. By ancient custom, when a bond is officially recognized, gifts are given. Tokens of acceptance. She opened the box. Inside, 2 necklaces. One silver, with an ice crystal pendant sculpted in the shape of a flame. The other gold, with an amber pendant sculpted in the shape of a snowflake. So that you always remember, Dante said. Opposites do not have to destroy each other. They can celebrate each other. Enzo picked up the silver necklace, looking at it with admiration. Then he turned to me. May I? I nodded, turning. He placed the necklace around my neck, fingers brushing the nape of my neck, sending shivers down my spine. The ice crystal settled against my skin, cold and comforting. Then I took the gold necklace and placed it on Enzo. The amber glowed against his tanned skin, capturing the sunlight like trapped fire. Perfect, I whispered. Like you, he replied. The councils began to disperse, conversations sprouting, plans for the construction, debates about materials. But Isadora remained, watching us with ancient, knowing eyes. You know what you've done, don't you? She asked softly. You haven't just saved lives. You've changed the course of history. We didn't mean to change history, Enzo said. We just wanted to survive. The best changes often start that way. She touched my shoulder, then Enzo's. Live well. Love completely. And let others see that impossible is just a word we use when we are afraid to try. She turned and walked away, leaving us alone on the border that was no longer a border. Enzo pulled me into his arms. So, our house, our life, our future. He pulled back just enough to look into my eyes. No regrets? None, I answered honestly. You? He smiled. That smile that was only mine. Only one. Which one? That I didn't find you sooner. Dramatic, I said again. But I was smiling. True, he corrected. And then he kissed me, there under the winter sun, surrounded by warm snow that still fell sometimes when the magic was particularly strong. When we separated, I looked at the bonfire burning in its new shelter. The flames still danced white and bright, a perfect balance of fire and ice, exactly like us. Do you think it will last? I asked. This peace, this union. Enzo followed my gaze. As long as we are here to remind them it's possible? Yes. And when we have children, he added, looking at me with something tender and hopeful, they will grow up without knowing ancient hatred. Only new possibility. Children, I repeated, testing the word. Part ice, part fire. Completely perfect, he said, like their mother. I leaned against him, his head resting on mine, watching the sun slowly descend, painting the snow in shades of pink and gold. The legend was right, I murmured, about opposites, about balance. Which part? That the strongest bonds don't come from similarity, but from differences that complete each other. He kissed my hair. Wise and beautiful. How did I get so lucky? Not luck. Destiny. I looked up at him. The bonfire brought us together. The Wendigo forced us to trust. And love made us stay. Love, he repeated, testing the word that neither of us had said yet. Not directly. I love you, Freya of ice who melted for me. I love you, Enzo of fire who warmed me without burning me. And when we kissed again, the snow around us began to glow. Sparkling crystals of ice floating through heated air, melting into warm drops before hitting the ground. Christmas miracle. Someone whispered from the crowd that had stopped to watch. But it wasn't a miracle. It was just love. The kind that breaks old rules. That challenges dead traditions. That transforms enemies into partners and borders into homes. In the spring, our house would be complete. In the summer, perhaps a formal wedding. And after that, the future, endless, full of possibility. But for now, this moment was enough. Standing where ice met fire, where north kissed south, where 2 impossible wolves proved that balance was not only possible, it was beautiful. Thank you for being here and for joining me for another story. I truly hope you enjoyed it. If you want, leave your comment. I love reading what you feel and think after each episode. Thank you for the love, and see you in the next story.